This one's about as basic as it comes, isn't it? Square. You can do that on the table saw very easily. Imagine you've got a 3/4 inch thick piece like that. Okay, now you've got a 3/4 inch face on there. Now if you turn it up on edge, you can make that flat face as wide as is appropriate. So you're not just limited to the thickness of your lumber, you can turn it up on edge to gain more thickness. Dental molding. This is really a square with some personality to it. So you've got, this says dental 1:1. What that means is you've got a raised field. I keep wanting to point to my screen, realizing you guys can't see that. I get my mouse here. Can you guys see that up on the screen? Yeah. So you got a raised field right here, and then you've got a recess right here that creates the raised field. This is shallow dado across the edge. So 1:1 means the ratio of this is 1:1. So if that's 3/4 of an inch thick, it's 3/4 of an inch that way. And then you've got also next to it the same dimension on the recess, 1:1. Dental molding can also be 2:1. These are not the only ratios, by the way. These are just a couple of examples. So here again, you've got 3/4 by 3/4, and the dado next to it is 3/8, half of the width of your dental. And this is easy to make on the table saw. If you've ever made box joints, you're probably familiar with a box joint jig. And this is very simple. We've got, you start with an auxiliary fence on your table saw. Set up your dado blade for what you want that recess thickness to be. In this case, I've chosen 3/8 because that's giving that 2:1 profile. Make a pass through the fence, cut a little piece of scrap, and glue a key in here. Now, one thing to remember is that key has to be shallower than the cut you're going to make. So if your cut's 3/16 deep, make that key about 1/8. So that way your piece is going to rest flat on the table saw. That key isn't going to hold it up. Then you're going to move this key over the distance of that field. So in this case, we want 3/4 by 3/4. That distance from there to there is 3/4 of an inch. Fasten the auxiliary fence to the table saw. Now I can make a cut. Let's see. Right below you, Paul. First cut, we're just going to butt it up against there. Well, and here's the issue. I had to cut this at home with my dado set. Different dado set here. So I'm just a little bit too thick on my key. But you get the idea. This will fit over the key, fit flat, you make another pass. Now I'm creating dental molding. You can do it on a wide strip like this, and then start ripping narrower strips from it. Or you can simply stand it on edge and do it like this. If you need something a little flatter, if you need more glue surface, do it on the edge of a wider piece. That way you can create more glue surface. If you've got a piece, you got a really nice bit of grain, try doing it this way so you get kind of a matched grain from that strip you're going to rip multiples from. Okay, so that's dental molding. Chamfers. You have chamfer bits. You can route a 45-degree and a 60-degree chamfer with readily available router bits. Any other chamfers you want to cut at any other angle, just tilt your table saw blade. Make that cut. So we've got chamfers we can work with. These are obviously a nice way to transition from one plane to another. Roundovers. Got roundover bits in all kinds of sizes, 1/4, 3/8, half. So you can make roundovers of various sizes. Beads. Kind of like dental molding, this is a roundover with some personality. You have a special bead. Now, a bead bit is different than a roundover bit because a bead bit will have these two fillets at the top and bottom. If you don't have a roundover bit, you might consider buying instead a beading bit, because you can use it to make the roundovers by carefully setting the fence and the height of the bit so that you're just getting the roundover portion. And then when you want a bead, you've got that available. So it's a little more finicky to set up than just a roundover bit, but you got a little more uses out of that. With a roundover bit, typically you've just got one fillet on the bottom. So you can get a round over with a shoulder, but with the bead you can get both. I keep doing that again, pointing to the screen. You can get both those shoulders up there. OGs. OGs are simply one radius that flows into another, typically. There might be a small flat area between them, and this shows, as you can see in the profile here, this shows perfect circular arcs that are joined here. You'll see a lot of variations in OG bits too, because some of those times the arc is flattened out, so it's much broader curve. And you might see, again, some that have just a little bit of flatter area where the two curves join. So this is an OG with a cove and then a round over. You reverse that profile, and you end up with a Roman OG. So now we've got the round over on the top. See there, we got the square from the OG. Now we've got the round over on the top. That's a Roman OG. Cove moldings. Cove moldings, again, come in a variety, or cove bits come in a variety of sizes, eighth, quarter, half inch on up. This one shows on a 3/4 inch. This is about a 3/8, a half-inch cove on a 3/4 inch bit, or 3/4 inch thick piece. You can buy them again in all kinds of sizes. So the idea is you'll then mix and match profiles. If you like drawing, you can do that on paper. I've seen it recommended from other places before. Yeah, well, just take the bit and trace the profile. Have you ever tried to trace a bit on the profile? You can't do it. It's silly. But if you are skilled in CAD or SketchUp or anything and you like using that, just draw the profiles out and kind of move them around. I'm not quite that good. So one thing I've done is created kind of a library of moldings, plain old 1x4s from the lumberyard, and cut them into the same length, and then spend an afternoon routing different moldings, routing different profiles using the bits that I had. Then I went to the table saw and cut these grooves that you see in them. That way, as you can see, it ties everything together, but it also serves another purpose, as you'll see here. Again, this is not an exhaustive set because there are more router bit profiles and sizes in the world. This could get pretty unwieldy if you do all that, or you build a second set. So here's my strategy for coming up with something different, unique, and custom to my particular project. I think, okay, let's just say at the base, there's a flat base. Want to transition up, and that's a concept to keep in mind. Moldings are about transitions. What you're doing is trying to guide the eye typically from something narrow to something wide or vice versa. So you've got a wider base that gives your cabinet a nice, steady foundation. And then what you want to do is get the eye up smoothly to the narrower portion of the carcass. And that's where moldings come in. Those little curves, whether you're conscious of it or not, help guide your eye in a pleasant fashion from a wider area to a narrow area, or vice versa. So that first transition, we'll try, cove. That's always a good one. Maybe a little, this is kind of a classic piece, so I want a little accent maybe. Put a little dental up there. Maybe a round over to top that off. Let's see how that looks. Then just get yourself a toilet bolt, a couple of toilet bolts, flat washers that come with them, and a wing nut. And that's where these slots come in handy now. So I can tie this all together and kind of maneuver those different profiles back and forth to see if there's something in there I like. That's where that flat head comes in nice, because I can just rest it on the bench. Okay, loosen that a bit now, kind of align those. I want the dental right there, and we'll try that. So, let's just come around and see that. That's not too bad. That looks all right. I wonder what it looked like if, come up a little higher, Paul. A little over the top there. Yeah, I wonder if it looked like I have the round over as a cap on the dental. Oh, no, I like that a little better. You may not your cabinet, is it? But this is what I'm trying to get to. I want you to be able to come up with some things that work for your cabinet, that please your eye. I am not a designer by trade or by talent. But I think we all know what we find pleasing to our eye. So trust your eye on that, especially if you're building something for yourself or for a loved one. Trust your own eye on it. If it's something you're going to look at every day, make sure it's something that you enjoy to look at. So try these little things, and don't worry about whether I'm hitting the golden proportion or am I getting this exactly right. Now, on the other side of that, as soon as I find something I like, I'm not going to head to the router and the table saw and start creating all these profiles in my lumber. I'm going to set this aside for a little while, and maybe a day, maybe just the afternoon, but then come back to it and look at it with a bit of a fresh eye. Say, does that still appeal to me? And in some cases, if you're at a stage in your build where maybe you've built the carcass or maybe mocked up the carcass, which is, by the way, in my other class I'm teaching, I hope you'll be in that. If you've mocked up the carcass and you have something you can set on top of your molding, now you can get even a better idea, how does this work as a whole? Do these moldings stand up to the cabinet as a whole? Does it maybe look too bulky? My cabinet's rather narrow, and I've got a big bulky thing on the bottom here now. So this becomes an interesting exercise in, you find something, but you're not quite sure, take a photograph of it with your phone, make a record of it, then you can start swapping pieces back out, going, I wonder if I can improve on that, if I can find something else that I like better. What if I just take the round over and make it a little smaller? Yeah, that's not too bad. I like being able to look at the monitor too, because it kind of removes me from, gives me that step back to kind of assess the whole design. That seems to work pretty well too. So again, I'm going to make a judgment based on what I think is best for that particular project. Question?
When you were making up your stack,
yeah.
Depending on the height of the router bit to the table, you get different profiles.
Exactly.
How did you register your bits? Or did you just do the ones that you liked the way they looked?
Good question. So his question is, if you didn't hear it, is how did I determine the height of the bits when I was making these particular profiles? And it was just, catch as catch can. Now, I could have, because again, every bit has really an infinite number of profiles, I could have taken the half-inch round over bit, done the half-inch round over, dropped it a 16th, dropped it an eighth, drop it, and try all those different combinations. So really what I did, to answer your question, is I just did the full profile. In the cases of the roundovers, I did not do them with a fillet because I just wanted the roundover profile. And one thing I don't have in here is any of the beads that we saw, that roundover with a fillet at top and bottom. I don't have any of those profiles in my kit yet. Excuse me. That led me to a thought I wanted to answer. Maybe it'll come back to me. but a good question. So this is the kind of thing you can do to figure out what kind of molding you want to put together. And you'll notice on the end too, I've got them labeled. You can see how that comes in handy too, because I'm not sure, maybe at a glance, is that a 3/8 inch round over, is that a 1/4 inch round over? I don't have to go to the drawer, pull out the bit, match it to the profile, and figure out it's written right there, so I know exactly what my combination is going to be to put together that set of moldings. And if you're a little anal like I am, you can get them back in the right order. So everything's where it should be. That's round over. So one other thing I want to mention about this, when you're cutting these grooves here, set up the dado blade in the table saw. I'm using a piece of 1/4 inch all thread for that, so set up a 16th or whatever over, but cut profiles in each end at the same time. And here's the reason for that. Let's go back to our profile stack here. Let's grab a few at random. If you want to flip something over, oh, hey, look, I did add beads. I did find them. If you want to add something, I wonder what that looked like upside down. If I flip that profile, you can easily do that, and things stay aligned, because your slots are cut the same distance from each end. Okay, so those are some of the basic profiles you can create and work with on the router table quite easily.